Hello dear YouTube friends, and hello new YouTube watchers. If you don't know me yet, my name is Mandy van Goeie. I am a Dutch artist slash illustrator, and here on YouTube I share my experience with art supplies, watercolor mainly, and of course I sometimes share my work. I also have a Patreon if you want to see more of how I work and my process and more of my watercolor art itself. Already quite some time ago, I recorded a review about Roman Szmal Aquarius watercolor. It was a new brand at the time, and it was more affordable than most artist quality watercolor paints, and I felt it was exceptionally good, especially for the price, but also in other ways it really did compete with the artist quality watercolor supplies I already had. This around Christmas or New Year, suddenly a little parcel arrived, and I had no idea why, but it turns out Roman Szmal sent me the new collection for 2022 with the new colors for this year. And in addition to the paint, he included a really wonderful Roman Szmal synthetic squirrel brush, medium-sized. That one I absolutely really love. And if you are going to, if you would be interested in my Patreon channel, you would definitely be seeing me using this brush because it's absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, I decided to swatch these new paints, and in this video I'm going to show you the swatch and my experience, my ideas about the colors, and I'm also going to compare the new colors to the existing colors, that is to say to the colors I already have in my personal collection, because after I tested the Roman Szmal watercolors at the time, I loved it so much that I helped Roman Szmal get a contact in the Netherlands where he could sell his watercolor paints, and from them I ordered a big bunch, so I actually have 2 boxes full of his paint, and I did a comparison of most of the colors, not all. So let's see how they work out. Now this is the swatch card of the new colors. So these are all the colors that he sent me, and I will talk about these colors individually when I treat them in the comparisons with the existing colors. Because there is a few pigments that have some information that's really worth mentioning. There are a couple of colors I did not compare or test that I feel are pretty straightforward, which is the number 255 on the right in the middle. That's a PY43. I find it a very straightforward watercolor. It's very good, it's very lovely, but I didn't really feel that it needed comparison. The same applies to the 256 in the bottom row, second from the left, which is a reddish brown PBR7. It's a gorgeous brown and it's really wonderful, but I don't think this really needed a lot of comparison with any other color or some highlights, because like I say, it's pretty straightforward, and these earth tones are generally always very good and reliable colors anyway. But let's talk about the other colors, because there are some really interesting colors in here, and there's one color in there that I really don't quite understand. So let's get to that. Before we go to the individual colors, keep in mind that whatever you see on the screen may not be a very accurate representation of the colors due to the settings of my screens, your screens. Things get lost in digital translation there. But I'm going to talk about it, and hopefully I can, by comparing it to other colors, hopefully you will get an image of what the colors look like in reality. So every new color in the collection is in the circle, and then in like the pieces of cake you see around that, those are the other Roman Szmal colors I have in my collection and that are a comparison. So right, 362 is a PY138. It's quinacridone yellow, very complicated name. It's a synthetic yellow. It's staining, so that's good news if you want to use it as, you know, a bottom layer. If you want to go over that, it's really nice to have a staining colour. And light fastness, I looked it up on the internet. There are very few watercolour brands that use this pigment, and what I could find about this is that it's light fastness too. As you can see, the colour is on the cool end of the spectrum, whereas a PY 154 is warmer, and I felt it compared rather well to the PY 109, which is also a cooler yellow. The difference between the 303 and the 362 though is that, and that's something that's very hard to show on screen, is that I think the 303, which is the PY 109, is brighter than the PY 138 is. That is a cool colour that is slightly duller than the PY 109. So if you would have to be making a choice between the two and you want a vibrant colour, I would choose the 303. And I don't know, if you need a more natural yellow, then perhaps you would like to go to the 362. So then there's a very interesting colour. Roman Szmal calls the colour Chrome Orange U, and the official name for this pigment, P082, is Sickle Orange. It's a fairly new synthetic pigment which is mostly used for industrial paints. It's not yet rated for light fastness, even though, because it's used in industrial paints, in the application of industrial paints, it's supposed to be pretty light fast, or else it wouldn't be used that much. But what it does in watercolour, we don't know yet. This colour, I think, is, if you look back to the first, to the swatches of all the new colours, it looked like a fairly warm and bright colour. However, if you compare it to the other oranges in Roman Szmal's collection, you will see that it is a very different kind of orange. It's duller, and I feel it's almost heading towards the brown end somehow. So I compared it to the oranges I had, which are all, the top three are much more yellowish and much more vibrant. And then there is the PO76, which is, I think, a red rather. It's like a vermilion kind of red, so it doesn't compare at all. But, the PO82 is definitely a duller colour, and there is another sickle colour in the collection that has the same characteristic. So it really depends on how you intend to use the orange that you need, whether you need to try this colour or not. I can imagine that for botanics, for example, it could be wonderful, because if you go for really vibrant colours all the time, sometimes it can make your flowers look unnatural. And I think this could be a very beautiful, well, almost flesh-like orange that can really help, give it a natural look. Although I have to be honest here and say I would probably not buy it, because I think for me it's rather dull, and also, as you can see on the little black spot, it is kind of opaque, semi-opaque. So that's something to consider as well. The second sickle pigment in this collection is the ginger red, which is a sickle red. It's a rather opaque colour. It's yellow shade, and it's an inorganic colour, which means it's a synthetic colour. Again, this is a colour I couldn't find in watercolours, so I think quite obviously Roman Szmal is trying to incorporate unique pigments in his collection, which I find a very clever thing to do. I think, if anything, the outburst of popularity of the granulating paints and the paints that would shift, and I think people like effect paint, so I think it's a very good idea to always be looking for new pigments. Right, Sycopel red, or ginger red as Roman Szmal calls it. I wonder where the ginger comes from, although ginger could maybe be taken as the colour of red hair here. I compared it to a few other warmer and lighter red colours that I have, which is the PO 67, the 314, and the PO 36, which is colour number 208. And as you can see, the ginger red is almost an earth tone. It's much duller, and it lacks the vibrancy of the other colours. But then again, I think it's very important with these colours. I mean, I am inclined to say it's an ugly orange or an ugly red, but then again, no colour in itself is ever ugly. It depends on what you want to use them for, and I happen to know somebody who lives in the New Mexico desert, and sometimes I see scenery that she photographs where I see colours like these, that I think, you know, if you paint landscapes, etc., I think this could be a very interesting colour to use. But at least this is a comparison of what it's like. Then we get to an interesting colour. This is paint number 357, and it is called quinacridone Scarlet. The pigment number hasn't been mentioned, so there is no way for me to say anything about light fastness or its characteristics. The only thing I can do here is compare it to the other colours. I love this colour, and I am a bit gutted not to know the pigment number and not to be able to be sure whether this is a light fast number. I so wish it is light fast, because I find it a very beautiful deep blood red, and that is a colour I happen to like to use in my work. It's warm, and it's without, you know, going to the pinkish side. So I've compared it to all the other reds that I have of in the Roman Szmal collection, and you can see it's slightly duller than, for example, you know, the PR 255 or the PR 178. Those are super vibrant colours, and that's something you can expect from, you know, quinacridone colour. They're always super vibrant, so maybe it's slightly less vibrant, but I really like this one better. I think it's better usable in, you know, for more realistic colours. If you want to move it to a certain end of the spectrum, I would say this has a brown undertone in it, even though it's not really true. It really is a red, but it's more like a blood red that has iron in it. That's what it feels like to me. I love this colour, and if Roman Szmal can ever provide pigment number and information about the light fastness, it would be great, because this is a colour I would love to add to my standard collection. I'm always looking for really beautiful deep and dark reds, and I think this is a wonderful, wonderful colour. So let's hope this information will still come. So here's another gorgeous colour, but contrary to the 375, which is more heading towards the blood red, this one has like a pinkish undertone. So this is perylene red, and it's PR 178, and I looked it up on the internet. It's a light fast darker red. Handprint says about this pigment that the light fastness is excellent. That's good news, right? I looked it up. The official rating for light fastness is anywhere between 1 and 2, so still good light fastness. If you're an experienced watercolor, you will know, and if you are not experienced yet, then it's something that you will definitely find out sooner or later. In the darker red area, it's very hard to find a light fast red that will hold its color, you know, because there are also light fast colors that do tend to shift a little bit in the beginning, immediately when it dries. So it's very difficult to find really, really pretty dark reds. So that's why I'm so enthusiastic about the 357 and hope that that's a really good light fast colour. But I also really love this PR178, which is really great if you're doing like peonies, for example. I can already see that. Compared to the other colours, it seems slightly duller, for instance, in the PR170 or the PR176. Those seem to be more vibrant, but then again, I find myself toning down. You know, in the beginning, I was always looking for the super vibrant, the hyper vibrant colours, and now I feel I'm toning down slightly more. So in recent years, so I found that I begin to prefer these colours that are, and you know, this is only slightly. This is not like a big difference. It's still a very, very rich colour. Then there is a beautiful PV55 in colour number 366. It's a beautiful, beautiful purple that, you know, is right bang in the middle when you look at cold and warm colours. It's slightly warmer, and yet it's colder than the really warm violet colours. So it's beautiful. I compared it here to 3 totally different colours, but at the same time, you know, this is a colour that really... Having this colour in my palette now really makes the purples complete for me. And I absolutely love this colour. It's beautifully transparent, and it's a tender kind of purple or violet, if you like. It's beautiful. Now here is a colour I didn't quite understand being in the collection. But then again, you know, those who know me know that I'm really crazy about granulating colours, and here it seems like Roman Szmal added a version of the ultramarine PB29 pigment, grinding it so finely that there is no granulation anymore. For me, it feels blasphemous because I really love the granulation of the ultramarine. That's why I hardly ever use ultramarine purely in my work, but I do love making mixes with them. And but I guess perhaps there are people out there who really need to have a non-granulating or less granulating ultramarine. But for me, I would not buy this personally, but that's really very personally. This is called Ultramarine Intense. Well, for me personally, I don't think the colour differs very much in intensity from the ultramarine that was already in the collection, the number 221. But I miss the granulation, and I need to think about this one. I need to see if I can find applications for it now, if I can start looking at ultramarine in a different way perhaps. Here I tried working with the ultramarine, as you can see, and what I did is I gave a very light wash, mixing the ultramarine with well, I didn't really mix the ultramarine, but what I did is I laid down wet puddles of the paint, and I used the Ultramarine Intense in combination with number 255, the PY43. So it's more like an earth tone. So there is some, you know, colour shift between them. It's not pure ultramarine. But in these puddles on this paper, where I would normally get a good amount of granulation, this time I didn't. And I missed it because you can see there where there is only the ultramarine very lightly on the paper, there is no granulation. So I sort of missed that, but hey, that's just me, you know, it's my own, what shall we say, it's my own obsession with granulating paint. So it says nothing about the quality of the paint, because it is a gorgeous colour, but if you're looking for a granulating ultramarine, don't get this one. Now here is a colour that I find difficult. You've seen me wrestling with this before if you've been on my channel. This is Cobalt Green Deep. Cobalt colours are again wonderful for their granulation and wonderful for how they mix with other colours. But in itself, it is a dull kind of green. And, you know, in previous years, I would never have included this in my set ever, because it's dull and it doesn't look that vibrant. But colours like these are really fantastic to tone down certain colours, like when you do botanics or landscapes. If you have a lot of vibrant colours in your collection, then having 1 or 2 colours like these that tone things down are absolutely fantastic. So light fastness of this colour is said to be 1, And I also found that this could be, it's cobalt chromite green, and that it could be an irritating pigment. But you know, the thing with that in watercolor is that you use so little of it, and also who's going to smear it everywhere? We don't ever paint with our fingers with watercolor, do we? So I don't think it's very relevant, but that's what I found, so I thought I'd mention it. But in the next slide, I'm going to show you what I think this color is absolutely really great for. As I said, in itself, I don't really like the color. The color is on the top right of the page, but what I did do is I mixed it with a couple a bunch of colors from this new collection, and what you find then is that there is lovely granulation. And if you know the recent outburst of granulating colors from Schminke, then you know that there's the Shire colors, the volcano colors, the deep sea colors, I think, space colors, whatever. It's all effect paints. It's all granulating. And how do they achieve that? Well, simply by combining pigments like these with other colors. That means that you don't necessarily need to buy all those colors if you like them. You can also mix them yourself. So having this color in your collection to tone down certain colors for botanics and landscapes is a really great idea, but it's also really great if you're into granulation and texture, because here you can see what it does. I happen to love what happens when you mix it with the 259, which is already a shadow color, a shadow gray, but I love what happens with it. There's beautiful granulation and texture in there, and the color on the left of that, on the bottom left, mixing it with the 163, which is dark ochre, that gave a smashing result for when you would like to paint rocks, for example, or forest floor or something, or even animals or monsters. That is an absolutely gorgeous color that came out. And also, I was impressed what happened when I mixed it with the 365, which is the perylene red. Because what you see is like this wine red that comes out, but that has this beautiful, granulation in there from the cobalt green deep. So this is a color I would never ever choose, on face value, but when you mix it, really gorgeous things happen. Talking about painting rocks, for example, if you mix it with the ginger red, which you can see on the bottom right, that also leaves a gorgeous grey, a brownish kind of grey that could very well be rocks with a lot of texture in there. So these are colours that may not look pretty, but that definitely are worth a try. So I was asked how quinacridone gold U, which is the new colour, would compare to the other colours in Roman Szmal's collection already, which was a quinacridone gold, I think, the 310, and I also tried the nickel azo yellow, which is the 308. Well, how does it compare? It's a lot more yellow than the quinacridone gold. And well, I think it's just an absolutely gorgeous color. It's warmer and more rusty than, the pure nickel azo yellow. And yet again, it's not really brown. So it really is more golden, like gold would be, rather than, like a rusty color or copper color. So it's gorgeous and it works absolutely fantastic. But what do you think? What else could happen using the PI 150? It remains one of my favorite pigments. Then moving on to the dark ochre, which is PY 43. I absolutely love this color. It's a light brown, but with a grayish undertone. It's neutral, it's not warm, it's not cool. It's a very, very fantastic color, I think, to have in your collection when you do landscapes or nature paintings. It's beautiful, I think. It compares to two other colors, which are both PBR7, so same pigment, different way of production. You see there is a greenish umber and there is an umber-like colour, and the dark ochre really fits in that scheme, but I love this one best of all those three colours. So then we move on to manganese brown. This is a colour that reminded me very much of Caput Mortuum. It's like a dark brown with a very red undertone, with a reddish undertone somehow, although it's less red than with Caput Mortuum. But it's a colour that's, I don't know, I can't quite grasp the colour, I think. Although I think it's beautiful, I think it's rather a smoky colour, or yeah, I think it would be, I think I would find it a smoky colour. The pigment is manganese, antimony, titan, buff, rutile, just so you know. And I don't know nothing else about it, really. The only thing I do know is that in comparison with three other colours somewhat in that range, you can see how it relates to the other colours. And I think it's a beautiful colour I think I would use it for smoke-like things, or hazes, or mist or something. But yeah, if you do landscapes, I am pretty sure you will find good use for this one as well. Now we move on to iron chrome brown. Iron chrome brown seems to look a bit like the manganese brown when you see them separately, but if you go back to my swatch card, you can see there is a difference. The iron chrome brown looks much more dark grey than the manganese brown does. It's a cooler colour, and I think again it's got that smoky characteristic, so I think it would be lovely for, you know, a mysterious smoky sky somewhere. But it's a very different colour. I think it almost has like a purplish undertone. I think it's very usable in any kind of painting. Also for shading, for example, I think this would be a very, very great colour to tone down different things, but also to add shades, for instance, in portraits or something. So there is no light fast rating for artist paints yet of this pigment. I found that on Artist Creation. It's mainly used in industrial paints, but because it's used in industrial paints, it's expected to have a very good light fastness. In comparison with the other dark browns, it's grayer and more towards the purple end, as you can see. So the final colour here is a shadow grey, number 259. It's a composition of 3 pigments, which I always find a bit difficult to use. Oh, sorry, my phone is ringing. But I've made a comparison for you because I thought you would be very interested in that, because shadow colours are very popular. So I made a comparison with Payne's Grey, which is the 243 on the bottom, and then in the middle is colour number 401, which is... I've learned to say this out loud, but British Grey, anyway, number 409, and then there's the shadow violet on the top right. So I think this colour for me is sort of dang in the middle between the Payne's Grey and the other ones. It's slightly cooler, it's more greyish, more towards the black, and it's less blue than the Payne's Grey. And I would definitely use this for night skies, or for I don't know, everything that needs to be dark and mysterious, I think, or everything that needs to be dark because you want to put focus on something that's really light, bright and shiny. So but yeah, this is a very interesting addition to the collection. Although I think if I had to, if I were buying a collection, I would definitely choose one of these, and not, get them all. I would probably choose, maybe the Payne's Grey and the Shadow Violet, for example. I think if I mix those, then I would probably get very close to the Shadow Grey here. Right. So thus far, my review of the new Roman Szmal colours. If you need to know anything else about the pigments, then please look them up on handprint.com or artistcreation.com. There you will find all the information you need explained in a much better way than I can. And well, I hope you will have a lot of fun with these colours. Some are definitely worth adding to your collection, I think. Oh, and just want you to know, I'm not sponsored to make this video. I'm not affiliated. This is just me, doing my pigment crazy thing here. If you like it and if you're curious about my work, go check out my Patreon and or subscribe to my channel or give me a thumbs up. And if there are any questions, please leave them here in the comments. Just know that I can't sort out all the pigment questions that might be there. The pigment numbers are on the photo here, so if you need to find any information on those, please look them up on handprint.com or artistcreation.com. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again in the next video. Bye!